before I get there, I realize I ended on a bad note in my second video. I was busy explaining why I have 2 midwives and I didn't finish. So let me just finish now. So my friend, my mom's friend, who's now my friend, she had this thing happen to her where her midwife was in another birth in the same time she went into labor. And so her midwife sent a friend, the midwife's friend. And the midwife's friend came to her birth, and Leah suddenly wasn't comfortable anymore because this person, a new person has come into her space, a sacred place where she's giving birth, a stranger, and she literally stopped dilating for 2 hours because she wasn't comfortable and relaxed. So I didn't want that to happen to me, so I was happy that my midwives worked together. I didn't hire 2 midwives, they actually worked together, and so I got to know both of them. So if one was busy, the other one would come and I would be comfortable with both. Hey, okay, so number 3. I'm going to end off this video with the rest of my story. Sorry it stopped halfway last time, but there was other details I had to sift in between. And since I haven't planned my talk at all, it's just like a casual conversation between you and me. It's kind of, all over the place. So, where was I? I was in labor in the bathroom and I moved out the bathroom. Now it's very important that in your labor you are given mobility. You're allowed to move around because your body, when you're having a period cramp, do you want to be told what to do and how to lie? If your father came or your mother said, lie down in that position and stay that way, do you want to do that? No, your body tells you want to crunch like this. You need to walk around now. The pain will lessen if you walk, or if you lie down and curl up in this way. Now you have to be on your right side. Now you have to be. So you have to listen to your body. Your body will literally tell you what to do. So you need to be able to feel it. And if you can't from penicillin, that's all right. If there's a good reason why you've taken that. But otherwise, it kind of blocks the signals the messages your bodies are giving you of what to do. Hey Ray boy. Hey Ray, you want to say hello to the viewers? Hi. So it's very important to move around, and you can choose which position you want to give birth. When you finally start pushing, you want to maybe lie down on your back, which is actually one of the worst ways. Imagine trying to poo lying down on your back. Literally, that's what it feels like when you're actually pushing the baby out. It feels like you're taking a big dump, with pain, of course. But it's not exactly, but it actually feels, it has the same censoring as a big gas poo coming out. So it's a lot easier to squat or sit. And that's why the water helps, because it holds your body's weight. In my situation with my midwives and the way they do things, you only get into the water when you're in active. 3 stages of labor: early, active, and transition. Only get into the water in transition, not active. So I was in active labor for about 8 hours, 7.5. And my midwife and my husband and my mom were holding me and pushing on me and helping me. And that's also why I wanted a natural home birth, is because I was given control. There wasn't a doctor telling me what to do. The midwives sat back and they allowed me to do what my body was telling me to do. And so I would walk where I wanted to. I would make the positions I wanted to. My doula would help me with how to swing my hips and the walks to do to help to move the baby down. And I even did a walk outside to look at the birds, look at the flowers, look at the trees, because when you draw your attention outward, it also helps with pain. But when you get stuck in the pain, stuck in the pain, then often feels like it's not moving, it's not progressing. But when you put your attention outward, sometimes it actually speeds things up and it somehow helps. It's like a mental thing that happens. And I walked around the pool and I sat on the bench with my husband, and he was very supportive. He was incredible. The doula said he would be an incredible doula, a male doula, if he wanted to. And the midwives would occasionally take the heartbeat of the baby and just tell me I'm doing great, I'm doing fine, because that's very important. And people telling you, or if you're going to be attending a birth of someone else, to tell them that they're doing well, because sometimes you really don't know. You don't know what's happening. You don't know how it's going. You don't know if you're doing poorly or well or whatever. And to have someone tell me, wow, you're doing an excellent job for a first time birther, that gave me so much confidence for the rest of my birth. And there was times where I was so tired and so exhausted, because it's not just the pain, but it's also the body is burning up so much energy and so many resources. That's why it's important to eat. And your blood sugar drops. Even though I ate, my blood sugar dropped still, and I was tired. And you see, that's one of the things, is that if you give birth, if you say you want to have a natural birth in a hospital, make sure you trust your doctor and the hospital, because often just by your blood sugar lowering or some small thing that might change, they'll say, okay, no, we're doing C-section. They don't know what to do. They're not familiar with natural births, so they just resort to C-section too easily. And so I wanted to sleep. I really wanted to sleep. And when I laid down, sometimes somehow the time between the contractions felt like infinity, and I was just like floating in space, and I was so tired, and I was like almost deeply asleep before the next contraction started. And they kept on asking, do you need to push? Do you feel like you need to push? Do you feel like you need to poo? Because those are the signs that the baby's right by the entrance of the vagina. Because from the uterus, the baby, the uterus starts dilating, and none of my midwives or my doula needed to stick their finger in to see how far I was. They just followed my body's signs. And on the outside, on your hips, there's a bone, like your coccyx, shifts upward as your hips open. And they can see just from looking at your lower back where you are in your labor and where the baby is. And they keep on feeling the stomach. So I would go into these deep sleeps, and I only did that twice, and I felt the best position for me was to sit on the toilet. It kind of got me in the head of the mental image of how to push when I was pushing, and it also helped with somehow the pain, like that position of sitting. And also by that time you're bleeding already, or at least I was. Not everyone is the same, but generally you can be, just before you give birth, you start bleeding bright red blood, and if it's like muddled blood, it means something. If it's like brown, kind of like not clear red blood, then it's just started. And when it's real true blood, then it's, the uterus is open, or opening. It's already quite wide for the baby to come out, and then the baby goes down the birth canal. And when the baby is right at the vagina walls, that's where you feel like you want to start pushing, and that's where you can start pushing. Before that, you don't push, because you can strain yourself, you can put extra strain on the baby, and the baby's also working himself, and he stretches out his entire body, or her body. I have a baby girl, I don't know why I'm saying he. And they after the birth, they're exhausted as well. And one of the beautiful things about a natural birth is that you and the baby, actually in any kind of birth, you would be recovering, right? Recover together. In that time, your baby sleeps a lot, and you need to sleep a lot, so it's perfect. And you both start recovering your energy and your health together. So I was on the toilet also because I was bleeding, and I needed to. I just felt more comfortable that I'd be bleeding into the toilet rather than on the floor or something. And Then when I felt like pushing, they said, okay, now you can get into the water. This is where I felt the difference of water. They told me now that I feel like I need to poo, I must get into the water because that means I'm having a baby. A lot of mothers will be like, oh my God, I need to poo. And they get out the water and they go to the toilet and they start delivering the baby in the toilet. So make sure you know, okay, if you need to poo, you don't actually poo. It's the baby. It's like a really big human-sized poo. So you just stay in that water or wherever you are, on the bed, on a birthing chair, whatever. The minute I got into that water, I just relaxed. It was like getting into a hot bath at the end of a long, stressful day. It was like a warm hug on my whole body. It was like a hot water bottle that surrounded. Oh my gosh, I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it. It was so, so nice. When I got into that water, I was like, how do other moms give birth without water? And I know it's done all the time, and some people find it more difficult to give birth in water, but for me, particularly and personally, water helped me so much. Just that, the feeling and the warmth, it was really nice. And the minute I got into that water, my water broke. Don't listen to movies. Your water does not break in the beginning of your birth. Think of it like this. You have your uterus in your stomach. I mean, like in this part, not in your stomach. You know what I mean. And it starts to dilate, starts to open, and the baby's upside down. The head is right by the opening. So when it starts to dilate, it's like a plug, and the water around the baby doesn't just gush out. Sometimes it can in the beginning, but that's actually not a very positive sign, what my midwives told me. It can happen throughout, and sometimes it doesn't even break because the head is like a plug. And so if the head doesn't have any space between the wall of the uterus or vagina and the head, the water can't come out. But the minute the baby maybe wriggles and opens up a space, water can squeeze past there. And maybe some of my facts are wrong here. You can please correct me, and I'll change the video, make a new one to give correct information. And some of this is my personal experience and might not be true for you, but it is true for me, and that's all right because we're all different, and that's how we have life on earth. Because if we're all the same, then it would be boring because we all have different experiences here and all different names. That's why difference is celebrated and not suppressed, or it should be. So sometimes your water doesn't even break because the head just comes straight out, and only after the birth the water might still be inside the sac. But mine broke the minute I got into the water. As soon as I got into that water, I had a contraction. And I was in that water for about an hour before the baby came out. And every couple of minutes, my midwife would give me some homeopathic rescue remedy, and she would make me smell sage. She explained to me why. I want to read it properly. Every client is different. According to your contractions, the homeopathic remedies help with emotions. The clary sage keeps the contractions consistent, and I give it as I monitor what the contractions are doing. I think it was either the water breaking or the baby that started, the head came out, was just after she gave me a smell. As soon as I smelled it, my contraction started for when the head was coming out. So I felt the power of that sage. I was in there for about an hour, and I felt the head right by the started to push it out. And I realized this head feels like a coconut. And I actually said that. I was like, the head is too big. It feels like a coconut. And my midwife, I could tell she was trying to not laugh. She was like, no, don't worry. It's very small. It's definitely not a coconut. The head is only like this big. You can do it. And because I had I didn't push for a long time. My body was ready. If you push too soon, often your skin, your perineal can tear a little bit, and you might need stitches, or maybe it's too little and you don't even need any stitches. It's very common, and it's better than an incision, because an incision cuts through the fibers of your body. The way, like if you tear paper, you'll see it tears zigzag. It doesn't tear straight because it follows the fibers of the paper, the sinews. And if you cut the skin, it cuts right through all the sinews of the body and takes longer to heal than a natural tear. A natural tear kind of does that, and then it heals a lot better. Whereas if it's a cut, it's perfectly straight, and it doesn't match up properly and takes a bit longer to heal together. So that's why it's easier to heal from a natural tear. I didn't tear, luckily, thank God, truly. Alright, so it took about six tries to get the head out. The head was the most difficult thing. After the head, it took one push and the rest of the body just slides out. It's really easy. And I was told that by a lot of people, and it was true. It happened to me. And the baby was born, and I was sitting back and holding the baby. And what a lot of people don't tell you is that you also need to birth out the placenta. So your contractions continue, or they kind of stop. And for me, they stopped. And I would just get like intense cramps, kind of like period cramps, but without so much pain. And I just pushed. About 20 minutes later, the placenta came out, and then they dried the baby. I wanted to keep that white stuff on the baby because it's like an oily substance that protects the baby from the water in the sac, so that the baby doesn't get like granny skin. And it's full of nutrient stuff, and so the baby absorbs it like a cream. And within a day it's gone, except in the hair, and then you just like wash it out. And they weighed the baby, and they measured the baby. They didn't take the baby away. They didn't actually they just did like a very quick short thing while I was getting out the bath, drying off, getting into bed. And one thing you do when you do a home birth is you buy a lot of linen savers, because you bleed a lot. And I bled for 8 weeks after giving birth, and that's quite normal. 6 to 8 weeks. You continue bleeding for a long time, but it's not a lot that comes out. And you still get like cramps. I still got cramps after birth until the 3rd day after birth, and then my cramps stopped. And there's a lot of things I wasn't told and I had to experience myself. I was like, Mom, why didn't you tell me about this? And my mom said, because we've all went through it, and once we go through it, we just forget about it. And so I forgot about it until you went through it. So these are things that are not commonly known. There's a lot of things that you also find out that no one told you. And that's just a part of life, I guess. If you want to know more details, let me know. Although I think I've given you quite a lot, but there's still some things I can say. And so that was my experience, and I felt, even though I was in so much pain, I felt so surrounded by love, and I was so supported. There was so much support and love in that room. There was 5 people in that room besides myself. 2 midwives, doula, my husband, and my mom. And even though everyone was busy doing things, the room didn't feel busy. It felt everyone had a job, everyone had a purpose to be there. And I felt held, and I felt mosquito, very privileged to have that experience. And there was 1 or 2 times where I actually wanted to burst out crying, just because I felt so wholly loved, and I was in control, and I was given the control, and as a birthing mother. And my husband was incredible. My mom was there. My mom just knew always what to do. My doula was really like a mother to me, and the midwives, I also formed a close connection with them. They became like my friends, and they still are my friends. And I still have my WhatsApp group because I don't want to delete it. It's special to me, and I sometimes send them updates. And it was just an incredible experience. And I'll put some pictures after my video. You'll find them somewhere, so that you can see my baby girl and us. And it was just beautiful. And I just want every mother to feel empowered and to love their birth experience, even though it's painful. It's beautiful. It's beautifully ugly. It's just like that. And once you go through it, and now 3 months later, I can only think of the positive things, even though I know negative things happened. And there was some, you get very emotional, and so you can feel very uncomfortable, or someone isn't doing something right, or something's annoying you. But all of that just leaves. But deeply underneath it all, there's a lot of positive emotions, a lot of positive energy, and a lot of things that are going on below the surface. And it's an incredible experience, and I feel privileged to have given birth that way and to have those people around me. And you can message me or comment below, rather, if you have any more questions. And I hope I've helped you in some way or another to decide what birth you want. And I probably better go now, and I can't believe my baby girl's still sleeping. I think I just heard her wake up. And this will probably be my last YouTube video ever. I'm just doing it for you who found it. Good luck with your birth, and loving light to you. Bye.
Just now she rolled over onto her back, from her tummy onto her back. I want to see if she can do it again. Can she do it again? Good job! Good job, baby girl! I wanted to show you guys how excited she gets when I shake the rattle. Look, 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 look. She's already getting excited because she knows what's gonna happen. Here we go. There we go. Good girl. Good girl. Nothing much. Ooh, there's the tongue. Was that a belly laugh? Was that a belly laugh? Oh.